Hello, I'm Kamali, taking you through the stories people are talking about and sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. The murder of a child in Saudi Arabia brings the treatment of domestic workers in the Gulf back into the headlines. Korean ballers may be out of the World Cup, but the country's K-pop anthems will blare at the final matches. While Google Translate is helping fans get by who can't speak Russian. And the Southern Lights shine bright. We'll show you them in all their glory. Now, top of our newsfeed, there are thousands of domestic workers living and working in Gulf countries. Many leave their own families to work in the desert and send money home, and many are mistreated by their employees. They live as little more than slaves. Well, this week, an Ethiopian domestic worker in Saudi Arabia allegedly stabbed the children meant to be in her care, killing a girl and seriously injuring a boy. She's been arrested and may face a death sentence.
The ban stays permanently. There will be no more recruitment for domestic helpers. No more. I would like to address their patriotism. Come home. No matter how poor we are, we will survive. The economy is doing good, and we are short of our workers. It seems as if they have anger against Filipinos. I don't want to send workers because apparently you don't like Filipinos. Just don't hurt them. I plead that you treat them as human beings.
Okay, for more on this, we can speak to Rosna Begum, who works for Human Rights Watch based in London. Rosna, thanks very much for joining us. Before we talk more widely about the issue of domestic workers in that part of the world, this Saudi case, what more can you tell us about what may have happened here?
It's difficult to know exactly what took place, but there have been instances in the Gulf of domestic workers who have harmed or killed members of the family in which they work. But often the question as to why they ended up doing that is often not really investigated. We have obviously domestic workers who are so abused that they feel they're completely trapped to the point where they are willing to escape out of buildings, even though it's incredibly dangerous, or to actually even harm the family members, believing that there's no other way out for them, and they can become incredibly psychologically and mentally disturbed at this point. The investigations, however, usually just look at the harm that they caused against the family members and not about their mental state itself and what drove them into such situations. The much less publicized situations, however, in these countries, local reports do not cover the situations of abuse, of torture, and even killings of domestic workers. We do not hear of them as much as we hear of the abuses that domestic workers commit against their employers, because that is the fear that employers have.
Absolutely. And Rosna, what can you tell us about what it is specific to these domestic workers working in this part of the world, in the Gulf, that means they're treated quite so poorly?
Well, there are more than 2.4 million migrant domestic workers in the Gulf states, and they are treated they suffer a great deal of discrimination and violence. So we have documented domestic workers who have worked incredibly long working hours of up to 21 hours a day without rest and no day off. They have their passports confiscated routinely. They end up being confined to the house many occasions, and they can face physical, sexual, and psychological abuse. Often it's a combination of all of those different things, and some of them amount to forced labor or even situations that could amount to slavery.
And Rosna, this is just one case. We hear of many throughout the years. We've heard of many throughout the years. But yet people are still going to the Gulf to work in this kind of field as a domestic worker. Why is it, do you think, there's such a draw for people from all over the world, from the Philippines and from wherever, to go to the Gulf to work in conditions where they know they may be poorly treated?
For women in these countries, their lack of employment opportunities and the poverty in which they are living in drives them out of their own homes, out of their own countries, to try and venture for dreams abroad. And the Gulf, which, in which they are presented with the opportunity to live in it with a family where they could earn a substantial amount of money, help feed homes for their families back home, is a real viable dream for them. And there are many, of course, domestic workers who are able to do so. And so spoken to have talked to me about the gamble that they've taken, that they had to take that risk, and they felt enough to have a good family and that they would receive decent salaries and good working conditions. Unfortunately, for many domestic workers, that is not what happens, and some of them suffer incredible ordeals when they do turn up in these countries.
Absolutely, they do. OK, Rosna, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for speaking to us. Now, Ebru Ozkan is still being held by Israeli authorities. That's despite pleas from the Turkish government. The hashtag Free Ebru Ozkan has been trending. Here's the background to her story, one we've been covering here on NewsFeed.
Savunma hakkı kısıtlanan, kişisel görüşme hakkı kısıtlanan Ebru Özkan hanımefendinin derhal serbest bırakılmasını
bir şeyin hiçbir şekilde delili ve aslı yok. Tamamen keyfi bir gözaltı. Çünkü terör örgütüyle suçluyorlar ama hangi terör örgütü olduğunu da söylemiyorlar. Tamamen asılsız, keyfi bir uygulama.
Time for a look at what else has been trending on social media. The hashtag Top is Back is trending in reference to the potentially imminent release of a new album by 21 Pilots. And some people on the internet are crazy excited. And it's another one of those days. According to Twitter, it's International Kissing Day, so mwah! Give your loved ones a smooch from all the team here at NewsFeed. Well, the South Korean football team may no longer be at the World Cup, but the songs of their countrymen will be. Two K-pop anthems by two of the biggest bands in the world will be played at the final matches. Tamina takes up the story.
K-pop has taken the world by storm. and now 2 K-pop songs will be played in the final Russia 2018 matches for the first time ever. This Twitter poll went viral after fans were asked to vote for a song to play in the final matches. 2 of the songs in the poll were K-pop ones, BTS's Fake Love and EXO's Power. EXO narrowly beat BTS, but thanks to an Instagram poll on the same day, BTS fans voted for Fake Love, which will now also play during the final matches. EXO, the 9-member boy band, formed in 2012 and is one of the biggest K-pop groups in the world. K-pop has a huge fan base internationally, including in Russia. K-pop groups have huge engagement on platforms like Twitter. Their fans have given themselves names like BTS Army and XOL. So where will K-pop fans take their idols next?
Let's take you around the world for some other stories you need to know this Friday. The President of America, Donald J. Trump, gave one of his rallies last night, the ones where he goes and talks to his rabid supporters on a range of topics, defending his egregious policies and denying there was any collusion with Russia. Well, in last night's episode from Great Falls in Montana, he decided to take a shot at his favourite punch bag, Senator Elizabeth Warren, who once falsely claimed she was Native American. Now, Trump now derogatorily calls her Pocahontas and then went into a rant about giving her a heritage test. Now, what's most disturbing about what happened with Trump last night is, 1, he also makes fun of the Me Too movement, and 2, he's reading from a teleprompter, which means that someone had to write the bile that he's spewing. Now, we reported yesterday on the fight between the EU and the music industry, which could see companies like YouTube having to pay artists and labels millions. Well, the EU voted against the move, meaning YouTube is still able to be the biggest music listing platform, and singers and writers and producers will not get any more money from them. Now, before you swipe left or right on that Tinder profile, you'll now be able to see your potential beau moving, as the app has introduced GIFs. It's only for iOS and it will only be available in certain countries.
Hey you guys, it's been a pretty rough week, but we're excited. I'm excited. We cannot wait to see you, and it's been way too long. I miss you guys so much.
Well, this is Janet Jackson thanking the world for their support in the week her father died, and her grand post was interrupted as her baby came running into the room.
Those are my baby's footsteps. You hear my baby Issa. All right, honey. All right, sweetheart. Okay. All right, I'm right here. All right, I love you. I'll see you.
Now, the World Cup is getting to its most exciting times. It's the quarterfinals, and beyond the game, we'll have all the details of the match and etc. But we wanted to look at how tech has enhanced the World Cup experience for many. One bit of software in particular.
Football might be the most universal language on the planet, but when it comes to deciphering the Cyrillic alphabet or communicating with locals at the World Cup in Russia, love of the game is sometimes not enough. To get around the difficulties of Russian, World Cup fans from around the globe have been actively using Google Translate.
For Brazil, it's really difficult to understand the alphabetic and the lyrics Russian. So we use Google all the time and asking the people what they try to serve or to eat.
They type what they want to say in Russian in their native language and then show the translation to locals. Others use the app's voice function that allows them to virtually speak to people in other languages. Russians have also been caught up in the craze.
We were at the souvenir shop in Vladimir, and the lady had her computer on, so she would type her Russian words and then ask me to look at her screen to read the English translation.
But the app can sometimes produce inaccurate or awkward translations.
One of our friends wanted to tell the woman in a shop that Russian women were very beautiful, but when Google translated, it said old women are very beautiful.
Still, fans say it's made their World Cup experience even better.
Na zdrowie.
And because it's Friday, we're going to leave you with some amazing pictures of the Southern Lights. They were filmed by the camera on the International Space Station, and it set some cool music, so my producer Ezra didn't have to put any on. Enjoy. And that is your lot from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to us with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again next week.